I guess we'll just get started, and people are feel free to come in whenever they can, but I guess we're starting with an introduction for Jaime Bartlett, our new Patron Experience Division Manager.
Hello.
So we had the opportunity this last month. As you remember from our meeting in December, we reorganized the staff of the Orem Library and added a third division. Obviously, our admin team was grateful for the additional help in addition to Linda Gallagher, who's over our tech services. Mike's job moved away from everything else to focusing on library call and outreach. And so it was by far the larger of the divisions, and so now Mike will be able to take a team of 5 and focus on, again, the library hall, outreach, communications, and makerspace. And that left us with a vacancy over patron experience. And so Jaime, through a wonderful hiring process, was able to leverage almost 3 decades of experience with our library, in addition to her experience as a professor at Brigham Young University. And so seemed like a great fit for the position, not just in terms of skill and experience, but also personality and what it takes to manage still far and away our largest division in the department. So with that, Jaime, I'd love to have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. And
Okay. So I grew up here at Orem, so I'm a longtime resident. I started working at the library as a page when I was 18 years old. And so nobody do the math on that. And I have worked for the library in varying capacities throughout the last, almost 3 decades now, including during the time I was in grad school, which was actually overseas in England. I was educated at BYU and then went over to the University of Oxford and earned degrees in anthropology and archaeology. So that's my background there. But I'd come home on the vacations and continue to do projects and work for the library. Then I kind of picked up some more hours when I came back. I've been full-time with the library for the last 6 years, I think, and most of that time I've been the adult and teen librarian.
Awesome. Thank you, Jaime. We're excited to get to know you.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll go next to approving the meeting minutes from last time. So I can make a motion to vote, or make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion to approve the minutes.
Awesome. Okay, do we have anyone joining us on Zoom?
We don't. Debbie, I did not hear from her.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do a vote. Should we start with John?
Aye.
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 Awesome. And then we'll go to the budget update from Bryce Merrill.
great, thank you. I just wanted to provide an overview, as some of y'all heard us talking pre-meeting. We have finished up the city's budget committee process over the last 2 months. We go through different phases of those processes. Some of them focus on personnel, some on fleet, some on operating budgets. And so each portion of the budget has a different process for us that we then get to sort of weave together into our operating budget. We operate on a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th. And so all of this is in preparation. We work very closely with our city council, but ultimately it won't go to the city council for a vote until later this spring. They typically won't final approve it until their meeting in June. But as they are able to be a part of the budget commissions, we have a pretty good idea of how it's going and what to look at. There were a couple of major themes across the city that we're seeing everywhere. Specifically sales tax for every municipality right now is something that people are watching. Orem is a city that benefits from a really strong commercial base, which means our sales tax, which funds a significant portion of the city operating budget, and that's a wonderful thing. If you've followed national trends, sales are down, inflationary pressures change the way that people spend, and so the city has seen a reduction in sales tax revenue this past year. The good news is interest rates are up, and so the city holds significant reserves and they accrue interest on that. And so typically for Orem, those two numbers come pretty close to balancing one another out. And so even though the sales tax revenue is down, the interest reserve revenue is up. And so across the city, the message from our finance director, Brandon Nelson, that has been shared is one of continuing to be economic in our decisions and efficient where we can, but where maybe some other cities are seeing significant hiring freezes or cuts, that is not the story in Orem. So we're grateful for a conservatively managed budget that allows us to continue to operate how and where we need, and do that. Specifically to the library, we just completed our MGT study. We were a part of the City Council's MGT study where they did reviews across several different departments, really the entire city. The three main questions they looked for were, is staffing appropriate, are our processes efficient, and is there technology that we need to be considering? The library asked a couple of questions specifically about the way we use reference librarians and the balance of digital resources versus physical collection resources. And so ours was presented to the City Council a couple weeks ago, and one of the biggest numbers that stuck out was the way we staff with our specific building. And so the average percentage of budget committed to personnel costs for a library was in the low 70 percentile, and we were at 84%. So we spend more of our budget on people, on staffing, than most other budgets. There were a number of reasons for that. Specifically, you look at our library, and there are 3 separate floors across 2 different buildings. That's a difficult way to staff and have access to a general reference librarian versus, some of the more modern builds have a reference desk right in the middle that you can see from everywhere. And so it provided us some challenges, but through some really creative solutions that our team has been working on, we feel confident that we'll be able to get our number in terms of how we spend our dollars on people versus on the collection, more in line with national trends without reducing any amount of overall library budget, and continue to provide really great customer service. So for this upcoming year, through the changing of the divisions, through changing the way that we would share the workload across our associate librarians instead of having assistant librarians, and spreading that out. If you remember that we added in the lead clerk so our part-time staff could be more qualified. And then through some of the redesign, physical facility redesigns that we've talked about, we'll be able to share some of our desk space. So staff groups can be cross-trained together, so we need fewer people working at a time to provide the same level of customer service. What that has done for us is it created a really nice operational savings in our personnel, and we are able to take some of those funds and apply them towards other operational needs this year. And so I couldn't be more proud of our admin team, of the work that Mike and Linda and now Jaime and Sharon have done for our department, because we are able to absorb some unexpected costs and unexpected things that come up like they do in any large organization, and we already have the solution in place for them. And so it's really fun as a library to find out about these financial issues that pop up and say, great, let's take care of it, without having to go before the council to ask for an increase in expenditures or something like that. A couple of examples of that: the cost of collection development has gone up 10%, almost 11% in the last year. So what it cost to buy the same number of books or materials last year is 11% more expensive this year. We are able to absorb that, and we will actually expand on our collection development this year, even though the inflationary costs are going up, without having to go out for more general fund money. And so we're excited to see a 10% increase in several of our major collections. We have an additional $20,000 going to our PERC, or Library of Things collection. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we're able to do all of that, including a pretty significant expansion of our Library of Things, our makerspace adjacent materials. Another example that we have is that we are adding in the lead clerk position. So some of our part-timers have been interviewing and are being identified for the additional workload. Maybe they're the ones that check in the damaged material and they have to make the call on if we're going to charge a fine or not. Maybe they are the ones that oversee the workflow in the tech services area to determine whether it goes to collection maintenance or can be moved back into circulation. Some of those elevated tasks we'll be able to promote, I think about 8 part-timers with a nice pay increase, and we're able to fund all of that because of operational savings elsewhere. So overall, and then finally, with some of our operational savings, we have funding tentatively approved for a couple of our major facility redesign projects that we talked about last meeting that we'll go over the timelines here in a minute. But with our operational savings and some internal accounting, we feel really confident about that process, and so we're going to be able to move that forward looking to this new budget year in a way that's just really exciting for our residents and the deliverables that they'll be able to get, and go from there. The final note is, while we are really excited to increase our collection development, we also want to make sure we increase our collection access. And so we are almost tripling our budget for a lot of our programs. Orem Reads, the Adult Reading Challenge, the Summer Reading Challenge, some of the intermediate small passive programs. The more our library staff are able to connect with the residents and create access and opportunity for them to come and congregate and be together and build community, the more they'll know about our resources and programs. And so to see those efforts tripled, we've had a lot of librarians do a lot with very little, and now they'll do a lot with just little instead of very little. So we're moving in the right direction. We'll still need their creativity and efficiency to stretch the dollar, but overall, just really proud of the team. I think we've done a nice job of taking a challenging situation from the last year, getting that strategic plan in place and being able to now put some dollars to those resources that we're asking them to do and make it happen. So that is my budget update. The timeline looking forward, again, we're through committee. Now the city council does their portion. They'll have a chance to chat with us, and then hopefully I'll be able to report back in May with very final approval and very, very specific information. Questions, concerns, thoughts, feedback? Yes?
I don't know if this is appropriate. You said major collections. What would that include? What would be a major collection?
Jamie, what are some of our largest budgeted collections right now?
Largest budgeted collections, children's, just in general, the entire children's collection is a major portion of our collection budget. Teens has a healthy, nice budget to purchase. If you take all of nonfiction as a whole, that's a nice big collection. All of our fiction collections, so we're looking at some of those as our major collections.
I think digital collection represents a third of our entire budget. Obviously, that it can get separated out to whether it's e-readers or different databases or Canopy services or something like that. But digital, I think, is over a third of the entire collection budget as well.
Thank you.
With the new staffing, do you have the will, like outreach and stuff like that? I'm just thinking about my wife who reads a ton, and I don't know if she's participated in the library programs. I know she has with our kids, but she herself hasn't. You talk about all the money spent on people. Whenever I come here, I love interacting with people. In fact, I brought a friend of mine 2 weeks ago. We went down and looked at the makerspace because he was looking at making certain things with a group of students, and I said, come look at the makerspace. So we went in here and he walked around with awe. He was like, what is this place? And I was like, it's the library. He's like, I've never been in a library like this. And we ended up talking to people about the makerspace, and we ended up talking about teen collection, and we kind of just walked around and then went into the media, and he was like, I wish I lived in Orem. He had no idea that it was like this was like a thing here. And I was kind of really proud, but you're spending a lot of money on people, and I love it because we had such a good experience coming in. But I wish more people outside could hear and know that that's like, hey, there's a resource here. It's not just about walking in and checking the book out, like come and experience something. Which I'm sure the outreach program, I worked a little bit with it, but that was with Nate, and so I'd like to see if we can get that
Yes,
going.
and that will be our focus. We're looking at ways to take some of our existing programs, to either expand them, take them off-site to different locations, because there are some geographical barriers in Orem, east-west side, some of the north-south, and so we just expanded. We talked about library lockers a time or two ago, right, at the Hillcrest site. That actually, they just installed those this last week or two.
They're not live yet, but they are installed.
It's been a thing, but yes, it will be there, in time for the opening of that Hillcrest location. So things like that, and then programs. We do school visits. We want to look at ways to take like you mentioned, makerspace, make mobile maker, and do some off-site workshops and or programs and things. So yeah, absolutely great idea.
And a big focus of the new division that I'm taking over is patron experience, is what the division is called. And it's all about getting our librarians in with the public, giving them that experience of coming in and having us be a resource and a point of connection for them.
I was going to bring this up, I think it might be a good time. I just got this in the mail today. Yeah. So, it's a really great resource, but I was just wondering, I don't know if the library needs to do their own, or how often you send kind of send us out, like the library can get a couple pages in the back or something. If it's going to everybody's house already, like maybe it's a way to.
So,
To
I
give
mean,
that to
if I
everybody.
could take those two comments, I think the next one, we have a series of makerspace programs that will be operating out of both the library and out of Hillcrest. They weren't ready to go because this only covers the spring and early summer. We're gonna do another one of these in August, and so the library's already writing in
Okay.
programs that they'll be adding. Again, the outreach, if they
Yeah,
just
it's
knew.
going to everyone's house,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them, you know, I think operationally, we draw a hard line between is it a rec program or a library program? I think to the resident, they don't care. Is this something that I or my family would enjoy, and where can I go and sign up? That's what we're interested in. So hosting some community events at the library and some library events out in the community, and I think no matter what, we're gonna just be really excited to have them participating. We're very excited to have the library involved in that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, since the cities kind of like, in name combined, like under the same umbrella, might as well take advantage of that. I think.
Agreed.
So.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had talked about, because the next one will go up for the fall, so it'll be right before the October Orem reads as well.
Yeah.
And so that would be another one that we plan on including in there, in addition to some of the maker programs and all that.
I think it'd just be a good time, like you say, like the reading program, might be a good chance to get more word out to for those.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
I also had another question about, is it getting harder, I don't know if this is related, but is it getting harder to get like, movies? I just know like, they're not selling those, but I know like certain, businesses aren't even selling those anymore. Like, is it having a strain on the, like
Blu-ray.
DVDs,
Physical.
Blu-rays, yeah, is it getting harder to obtain those?
I don't know, like speaking with our librarian, I don't ever get the feeling that availability on those is becoming difficult, because of, well,
Maybe the
sorry,
price,
I
maybe.
would step back on that. The biggest challenge would be that a lot of companies are, whatever they call it, going vertical. So they're streaming and not releasing a physical format item, right? And so if they own it, like Netflix, was notorious for that, that you couldn't get Stranger Things for like 2 years after this season launched in physical format. And so that's probably the biggest
Okay.
obstacle in terms of that, but
I've noticed that our thing to do is like special edition and make it the price like twice as much as it
Yeah.
normally would be, so.
We had talked about this in our NGT study with the city council, but whereas for a lot of us as consumers, the price of our digital media consumption has gone down per view, for library purchase items, it's the exact opposite. The Chicago Sun just came out with a pretty interesting article a couple days ago, but the average cost for a digital book right now is $75, and it is a 2-year or 26 checkout lease, and that's it. And then you get to choose to renew it again or not. And so we can do the very specific cost per checkout is fixed on an item like that for a streaming, a movie, for a book, for something like that. And so, and you don't even own it, you lease it. And so we can buy the hard copy item, which comes with a collection cost and a cataloger cost and a collection maintenance cost and a shelving cost and buying the building and having the staff to put it in. So it's not necessarily cheaper, but they have, looking at this vertical integration, they've taken full advantage of the idea of going digital and have made it very expensive. So there's no obvious, let's just go digital or let's stay hard collection. It's just a sort of a mix of both right now because they're working out to about the same cost per circulation on most items, on many items. Things like reference books and things that are eternal they will always be in the collection. Those you just put here. Children's, you just get a physical item, but for some of these movies, for some of the most popular, popular titles right now, I think it's really 50-50.
As far as those titles go, a lot of the most super popular stuff is usually fairly accessible. But it's usually this it's not the non-mainstream, it's just the off stuff that, I don't know how to say it, but I would say more important. Only because I just met with, at the high school, all the media teachers in Alpine School District met with all of the representatives of media instruction at the universities, from Utah State to Utah Tech. We all went in the room and talked, and the thing that they said students are missing when they come into college is they're not lacking technical skills, they're lacking vocabulary. The vocabulary that comes from watching different content on Disney Plus. And they were very specific about it. So, I mean, obviously in this room, probably we all understand that. But it is fascinating to see when the easy stuff that to get access to is consumed at a high rate, they don't think of the fact that there's something else out there. And then they just lack the vocabulary to break down a mediated piece of message, right? So I think that that media collection, if it's difficult in vertical integration, you have to wait. Maybe it has to be approached to like, what are important pieces we need to have to help provide that opportunity for those students, or not students, for people to come in and have a different exposure. So
That's a great point.
It's one of the benefits of having physical, because it comes and goes from streaming, and the consumer has no control over what comes and goes and what they have access to at any one point. Whereas in a physical collection, you can always come in and find that in our physical collection if we make those smart choices. Like, we will always have, whatever it is, even if it leaves the streaming service.
I've been grateful for that lately, because there's been a few movies like, I assumed that would be on something, but it's on nothing. You have like 5 different services and it's on nothing, so it's like, the library had it, so it's like, oh.
yeah, my daughter's at SUU, thank you for having a great collection. She got a job and worked the 2 nights that they had required viewing of 2 different French films. And her teacher, she went and said, hey, I'm not gonna be there, I got work, and she said you're just gonna take a hit. So she got on the catalog and then put a reservation on it, and my wife went in and picked it up, and we drove down to SUU and stopped on our way down to St. George and watched 2 French films, and she took her notes, and then we went on our way, and her teacher was blown away that she found it. She's like, it's the Orem Library. So.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. Okay, well, that's our budget update.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move to project update.
Would you be okay if we switch items 4 and 5 really quick?
Absolutely.
I thought projects update would be more tied to budget, but I want to talk about our preliminary report on the library community impact survey. As y'all saw on social media about a month ago, we sent out a survey to our residents. We sent it out to users, we sent it out broadly to anyone that lives in Orem, and it related a lot to what Matthew was sharing about being an experienced library. We partnered with the Research Business Development Center to do this brief, survey, and essentially the question we are wanting to answer is, do people view us as an errand, or do people view us as a destination? Are they coming to drop stuff off and pick stuff up, and can we make that more convenient? Or are people coming to be here to come and stop by Maker and to check this out, or to watch something with us, or to come to a program? And the answer we got, of course, was both. And we want to make the errands easier and quicker and faster. And we want to make the experiences richer and fuller and more convenient. And so we have worked with them. We are going to present to the City Council in April, I think April 9.
Do you want me to go back up? Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We will present to them on the data that this group is helping us partner on and present. But I just want to share preliminarily what we have found and what we're working on and go from there. Oh, yeah, wow. April 9th, 3 p.m. Perfect. We can go to the next one. So we did 2 different things. One was, how does the community view us? And then 2, what are the pluses and minuses in terms of experience for those that are using the facility? And so we tried to ask a series of survey questions that focused on the experience. Some of it was very physical, like, how is the parking lot? And surprisingly, in the middle of a major construction project, the notes were harsh, and we knew that. And we were, of course, we did not take offense to the fact that it is less convenient to park here right now as they're having, massive trucks in the middle of our parking lot. Other things, we asked questions, is your primary use educational? Is it an employment resource? Is it recreational? How do you view it? We asked how much time they spent here. Whether they were focused really on the collection or some of the programs and all of that. And then really tried to ask a series of questions of, when they think of the library, do they think of our digital resources, our website, going online to the collection and making a physical reservation, going online to make a digital reservation using our Libby or those types of resources, and go from there. So we had hundreds, almost 500, 415, 475?
436.
436 people respond in about the 72 hours. And then as part of that, the RVDC staff then went and did focus group conversations with another 40 of the residents. And so we picked people that had rated us really high and really low and several in between to hear the frustrations or to hear the emotional connection, the purpose of what was important. And we were able to take those, and now they're sort of sifting through and using the data that we have as well as these focused 20-minute conversations to make some guidelines and recommendations and best practices. We didn't wait, that's why you see collection development expansion and program expansion in the budget process. This is what people were telling us about, and so we wanted to make sure that our resources, our time, our staff was aligned to deliver on that. We were able to gather zip codes, and we can see where we have really good use from certain zip codes and where maybe there is a physical barrier to participation. And I think that will cue us up to where the next library locker or where some of our outreach programming needs to be focused on in our city. I know we're not a massive city, but there are real differences in being able to get here across Center Street or not, across State Street or not, coming over University and State Street, or University and Center to get here. And so we were able to sort some of that out. Do you have the graph on how long people use the facility? I thought this was fascinating. So some people come on in and use us for less than 5 minutes. They come in, the book is on the hold shelf, they snag it, they check it out, they're gone. You can see that the bulk of our people are between 6 and 30 minutes or 31 and 60 minutes. And so that typically tells me it's the perusing. They're having a quick conversation with the reference staff. They might not be here for the afternoon, but they are definitely more than just walking in, grabbing their thing and walking out. And I think that that's really exciting. 84% of our people are here for that 20 to 60 minute range. And so that gives us a lot of cues on how do we staff, what kind of furniture do we need? Do we need the furniture that supports, the day? Are you here for 8 hours? Or do we need furniture that supports a comfortable place to sit for a quick conversation? So we're really excited about that. As you can see here, and I know these are binary, trinary questions. Obviously, there's probably an element of recreational educational split, but as they were able to provide us answers, you can see that almost everyone uses us for recreation. 95% of respondents had a recreational element of enjoying the library. More than half used us as an educational resource as well. And so whether for them or a family member, and you can see that where 20 years ago, I think there were significant people that were using libraries as an employment resource. That number has dwindled. Jaime oversees our study rooms. I think I would say the strongest correlation is to a study room to be able to take business calls, work on something. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
And go from there. So again, how do we build and allocate our resources? I think this tells us what people want. And a shock to absolutely nobody, almost everybody is using our digital resources, our online resources, even if it is, for my family, it is to see if the book is in collection and to put a hold on it, and then we go from there. We use some Libby for audiobooks and digital books, but really, our family, since we have young readers, they want the book in their hand, and so that's how we're able to use that. This helps us see how and what they used, and you'll have access to these slides, so we don't have to go through everything. But specifically things like magazines are used by only a small portion, and those come with a lot of fees. Maybe we reconsider that. Same thing with databases, incredible wealth of information, but depending on the database, understanding how to use your library card to log in to get what you need there might be some collection access issues there that we can work on. This is one of my favorites here. You can see our age groups are well represented across the range. Obviously, this is the age of the person taking the survey, so maybe it skews older where we know that under 18 is not 2% of our users, but those toddlers don't have emails yet, so we'll have to take their parents' word for it on how they use it. So overall, this is the data. The focus groups have been fascinating. We meet with the RBC every couple of weeks. It is a experiential student group that you hire, and so these are juniors and seniors that are in data analysis or marketing or something advertising that is related to this work, and so they're able to do it for a fraction of the cost, and we get great data on a couple of questions it's been wonderful to give students a job that is organized through their university, so they have, mentors and all of that, and we get a great value. So we did both this community impact survey, Mike also did one. You want to share just a minute about what y'all are doing?
Yeah, they're looking at primarily library hall as we look to activate, kind of move forward on that in terms of building out a schedule, having a robust rental component, and still using it for, community events and performances, library, etc. So RBDC is just, gonna deliver some information regarding, staffing moving forward, at what level, and recommendations, ticketing options for future events, rentals that would be charging tickets or events that we put on, similar to maybe like other venues in the valley, Covey Center, Norda, and then booking systems. So understanding how to do that, get reservations and kind of handle that, but we'll have more tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and then again in 2 weeks, I believe.
Definitely more staff-facing one. This was interesting for us as a staff, useful as we go online with a new type of facility rather than the community impact, which was much more public. I love this process. We heard from hundreds of people. I think when we don't do proactive outreach, we hear from sometimes extreme sides of things, or they have a really specific ask. How dare you not do this one thing? And it seems like, is this a thing or is this one person's experience? We had a bummer interaction yesterday in one of our concert hall venues, and it's like, the balance of bringing in fine art, high art, and making it accessible to children. And it's like, those are tough situations. No one was wrong. It just is, how do you balance library programs and kids with ensemble chamber choral? And it's like, but this allows us to step back and say, no, the work of trying to combine those two as much as possible is exactly what people are asking us to do. And so it keeps us to say, this is still worth trying to do. Even some of the challenges we had over the last year, I think we heard a lot of really strong opinions with a very particular lens. It's nice to put this out there with open-ended questions and hear that most people's feedback and concerns was about French language cinema accessibility or something like that. And so again, I think it means we've taken on some of the biggest challenges and allayed the concerns there so that people feel like their experience now is more about the parking lot and the children's access and the type of shelving or some of those day in, day out interactions that we see. So overall, a positive experience. We'll have final information to present to our city council on April 9th, but I think it was a positive experience and we're grateful for the data and gives us some good direction on finding those experiences as people come in.
Any questions?
I'll say it was well done. My wife was one that got called, so.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
That's great.
She could do her lawyer thing to say if it was a conflict that I was on the. So she said they did a good job.
Good. Hoping for
Ken
some
was
harsh
there.
feedback.
Yeah.
We're gonna go cross-analyze the focus groups,
All right, so let's go to project update.
Great. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. Last time we talked about our facility master plan. Again, a process we went through with Method Studio. They will have the final deliverables of the facility master plan to us, we think the week after next. But it's been a great process, and the goal was to put a 5 or 10 year lens on what our facility is, how it will interact with the new city center, a new plaza, and to think about the dynamic needs of a physical library and how we can plan for that. As we've been able to do that, we talked about several things at a high level. We talked about our north entrance over here right by Children's. We talked about our south entrance, which is those doors right behind us that will be in the middle of the plaza here in a minute. We talked about connecting library hall to the storytelling wing. We talked about an expanded makerspace and demand for expanded makerspace and junior makerspace and some of that community or programming space within the library. And then we talked about the tech services bullpen where our current very large circulation desk is, being able to help the staff processes of the tech team by moving them together so that the life of the book is simpler. We don't spend so much time carting books downstairs and upstairs, south wing and north wing, just to go through its daily process. I wanted to share a little bit of our timeline. So the facility master plan is, our portion is completed with Method Studio, and we hope to have the deliverables on that. We have tentatively secured funding for the interior remodel of the tech services bullpen, which includes the entrance, our vestibule entrance and access right here, the door and sort of connection between library hall and the storytelling wing, and we have tentatively secured funding for our library park, which will be the new city park in the current 3 courtyards of the library. It's tentative because it's until they tell us it's final, it's not final, but we've gone through all the necessary approval processes. We have sort of next, we'll receive final facility master plan documents for each of those spaces, and we will prepare the concepts that we will be able to take out to the stakeholders for those processes. So those stakeholders are where y'all come in. So specifically, we will be working mostly staff-facing on the connection door and on the tech service area and on this entrance. I don't know if the creative juices flow for the regular resident on how tall the cubicle walls are or what type of finish we use on our cabinetry. I do think it's important to note that it will use and incorporate a lot of glass because we want our tech services staff to be connected to the patron. And so when you walk in, where there is currently a book drop with a wall, there will now in the future be a book drop with glass that will see our future sorter, and you'll see the staff behind it doing the sorting and the collection maintenance, and there'll be glass, so it flows. You'll be able to look in and see our collection maintenance workers or our pages back there working, and it'll be what we hope is a highly interactive environment. That front desk, which has been exclusively CERC, will now be both circulation staff and our children's librarians. We're pulling them from further back to be up close and personal. So your first interaction is both with the circulation staff and with a reference staff, so we can be right up front with you and go from there. So there are elements that I think will be really exciting to the patrons, but generally most of the conversation is going to be about, do we fit 7 offices or 6, and do we have 15 workstations or 14, and so we'll have a staff-heavy process for that. We will take those staff meeting notes and feedbacks over the next 2 months, and we will present that to y'all at our Library Advisory Commission meeting on May 21st. And so we will be here, Method Studio may be here as well. We'll determine if it's best coming from us or from them. If it's highly technical, I'll let them talk about it. If it's just, are y'all okay with the cubicles, we'll go from there. Same thing on the door that will connect the storytelling wing to library hall. It will add in additional storefront glass. It will have a canopy and additional lighting and signage so that you feel connected. It feels like an entrance, not a back of the library story hall. With the plaza in construction in June of 25, I think more people will have easier access. You won't have to cut through a breezeway. And so hopefully that door is used less, but we also plan to open up our art gallery hours to match the library hours, so there is more coming and going throughout the day. And then finally, this entrance over here, again, we have focused on a minimal impact. Where he just opened that door, we would have a 3-foot glass pop out in front of where those doors are right now. That would make it look, when we step out, you'll see the 2 glass vestibules on Library Hall. We would have 3 matching glass vestibules throughout. And then actually right behind us here is where we will have the little sitting area. So this door that enters, if you go into the breezeway right here and hook a left, that would actually enter you into a little sitting area. We'll have some plantings and hopefully some garden swings, and it'll be a nice quiet area with a wall around it, so it would only be accessible from the library. So another outdoor at-grade space. So those 3 we would handle pretty staff internally. We'll have to y'all by May. We would have Method Studio would then create final construction drawings and take to our contractor in June to incorporate into the June of 24 to June of 25 timeline for the city center and plaza. Any questions on that project? See, that's the boring one. The exciting one is our courtyards. So the courtyards will have a very similar timeline. However, I think this is a truly unique project, notably unique. There are other libraries that use their outside space really well, especially those that have been designed to incorporate that. But to have the opportunity to take an existing sufficient green space and really talk about multiplying and magnifying its ability to serve the residents, I think is unique. And so we really want to involve the public in this process. However, we still have to have construction documents to late by the end of June, which means we gotta hustle. And so we worked with Method Studio to talk about a way that we could step the amount of feedback that we're able to receive so that residents can weigh in, but also can weigh in useful ways. If they want to tell us that they want to change it into a giant treehouse, it's like, oh, that's just not going to work. And so we don't want to ask questions where they could give us cool feedback, but then we can't incorporate it and it feels like we're saying no. And so we have some broad concepts that we'll be able to take to them, have them rank some amenities or the type of experience and environment that they want so they can let us know. We have 2 early drawings from them that we won't use. We don't want to stifle their creativity too much, and so I think this is useful for us. If you want to go to the other picture first, Sharon. This is as if you've just come down where currently there's a fence and then that grass hill under the bridge. You would be coming down steps into this lower courtyard area. This doesn't have nearly enough green. There would be a lot more green down there, but there would not be grass down there, but there would be a lot of garden beds, like both vegetable garden beds and trellises and stuff like this. So don't let the all gray concern you. But you would be able to step down into here, and you would have seating areas. You'd have the existing trees. You can see in the back right a spiral staircase that would take you up to the upper courtyard. That would not be a means of egress. Spiral staircases, I learned, don't count. But we don't need it because the library would always be open during the hours that that's open up there. And in front of us, right now, we have a greenhouse blocking or massing object in front of us. And so that big square right there would be a glass greenhouse that we'd be able to program out of or do book clubs out of, and we would have a year-round fun place to read. So you would have a greenhouse environment with greenhouse-style chairs or a table in there for group discussions, and then we would work closely with our beautification commission, which has several master gardeners on it, to design it in a way that is useful. We did the sun calculations with our architecture firm to make sure that we would do plantings that would thrive in that lower sun environment. You can see the connections to both the buildings on either side, and then it would kick up to that upper courtyard. There is a second spiral staircase that kicks up from that courtyard up to the triangle-shaped balcony on top of the children's. And so again, I think the ability to do some really fun summer musical performances or public reading or poetry or just different community activities in this really dynamic outdoor space would be a lot of fun. Now, there would be some things that would and wouldn't work in this space, and there's room to say more sitting or more playing, more seating and artificial shade or more trees and get to the natural shade. Do we love the greenhouse or do we hate the greenhouse? And so we have some questions that we felt like we could ask. And Method Studio, as our architecture partner, would help us design those surveys and go from there. So our timeline is we would take very loose concepts, get this out to the public within the next probably 2 weeks, and solicit feedback. We would then take that feedback and work with our staff, work with the Beautification Commission, and work with our Public Works or Parks team to say, are you okay with this? Risk management would be involved at that point. Once we've done that, we could get some preliminary information out to y'all for review and discussion. And then we would work with Method to prepare much more specific drawings based off of that feedback ahead of, again, our May 19th commission meeting. And then after the commission meeting on May 19th, Method would have the following 5 to 6 weeks to prepare construction documents to take out to contractor bid so that we go from there. We realize a lot of cost savings if like the types of pavers we use here are the same types of pavers that we use in the plaza. If we go with a particular species of tall ornamental grass and we like tall ornamental grass, we're going to do the same one in here. So from a maintenance perspective, from a pricing perspective, there would be some stuff that would be fixed. But it depends if we want raised beds or level beds or trellis beds, or if we prefer squares at level for fruit trees rather than, vegetables and stuff like that. So there would be some stuff that we could do and some stuff that we'd probably say, that is a cool species of ornamental grass, but we're gonna go with the one where we're already buying 700 of them for over here. So it feels like a continuous park plaza project. Questions, thoughts, initial feedback, initial strong opinions on the way to use the 3 courtyards and weave them all together?
Yeah, just, I'm assuming, when you're putting out public, you talk about them giving you random stuff you can't take, maybe you start, maybe you already have, take a look at places that currently have successful or high-use public space, like Highland in New York City, with a lot of, it's an industrial space that can be very unwelcoming, and they've done things to make it where people would choose to be in that space. And that's a big difference. Obviously, I've been down in that courtyard, and I was wondering, how do you get the grass out of here? Or, how do you, some of those choices may have prevented them from maintaining it properly because it was difficult to structure. So ornamental grass still has to be cut and trimmed and removed. But I mean, if there's things that can be done to help make the flow better, if there's a place that's working already, take that into consideration first, because that was starting in the right place.
Thank you, love that. I know we as a staff have had a chance to do a couple of those, but now that we're in earnest, I think we gotta kick that into high gear, and so love the way of that way of thinking, thank you.
So those stairs are like where the hill is right now? Is that
Yes.
correct?
So you
Does
have,
that mean you could come in without going to the library?
yes.
Okay.
No,
And as a city park, that's how we would design, we want a even more welcoming space, and if, we make sure that our signage, like on these 4 doors down here, invite people to then enter the library, and go from there.
I'm just wondering, does that give them a chance to take materials out through that without going, like checking it out through the sensors?
It does,
So,
it does.
so that's my only concern, it's like,
There is a checkout space down in the media center now,
Yeah.
so you I was down there and checked out books and everything right there and walked out the doors.
I was wondering if you'd have to put like those book sensors on those doors too.
Yeah.
So.
We had hoped people wouldn't notice, so let's scratch that from the meeting minutes.
That's my concern, so.
Even on this courtyard out here, I think we're looking at like a 3-foot fence right now, that would match this metal, angular sheathing. And it's like, oh, but then they could jump the fence. And so I think we started to get into the conversation of, what is that going to be, that balance of, do we trust people? How much do we trust them? We know that we will experience material loss. Is it worth it? What sort of a balance? So definitely a good question that I don't know if we're resolved on it yet. Do we go through on each of those sets of 4 doors and put the security and have a self-checkout stand, or how we'll handle that?
I think it'll be like a better use of the space, like, I've been down there too, it's just like, what do you do down here, it's kind of a walkthrough area.
Yeah, it's a pathway. Any other questions, thoughts?
That description shows a lot of glass on the right side, which I'm assuming is where the media and movies, but the left side, it looks kind of concrete, pretty no natural light going in that direction.
Yeah, there's just like 2 windows. Is it 2 and then the doors? Or is it just 1 window?
No, it's 2.
Okay.
There's a couple windows going in there.
But,
Yeah, those shelves right there are floor to ceiling, so it's not like the light's gonna get very far, but using the natural space, or maybe you go ahead and use that. I love the concrete industrial look that I love people use architecture, but you do want inviting green space, or like maybe that's the trellis and the plants and stuff that would, I'm assuming winter, even if you have a really well-designed space, people aren't gonna be there.
Right.
But that greenhouse in the middle, that could be interesting in the winter, like a snow, and you're surrounded in this like, that'd be kind of an interesting space,
Okay, other thoughts?
So as a park, that means the park department would come in and maintain everything.
Which is why they're gonna help us design it in a way that is maintenance, low maintenance. Yeah. To your point though, right now, they have to take a mower down the
A
hill.
big one.
Yeah, yeah, and so,
The push mowers, which was a really scary thing to watch.
yeah.
That's a
Here we go.
And I've actually seen them drop it down.
Yeah, they are all very excited to have a non-mowing space, And I think we'll have some really cool library programs in terms of the gardening and the experiential gardening, and we can get out there and we can do some of those weekly programs and book clubs that center around rosebush maintenance and bonsai trees in the greenhouse. I think there's a lot of fun that we could have that would keep it low maintenance for the parks team, but they would be there for the real maintenance, you know, the irrigation and the real stuff. Okay, so we are T minus. We are tentatively approved, so we can't go on it until we get a couple more things lined up, but our timelines are compressed, and so we'll look for a lot of public input on this one, probably in a couple weeks. A lot of staff input on the other ones in the next couple of weeks. We'll have workable documents to y'all for review and discussion. And then we'll take that to an LAC meeting on the May 19th and probably have an opportunity to invite public if they wanted to do public comment at that. And then hopefully from there we're able to take feedback to method that gives them time to do the construction documents for bid so that we hit our efficiency with the existing contractors on site for the city center.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? All right, let's go to the PERC changes.
Great, are y'all familiar with PERC? Is anyone not familiar with PERC?
You have to remind me.
Okay, PERC is our
Parent Education Resource Center.
center. It is an organization, a separate nonprofit organization that has existed inside of the Orem Public Library for 40 years,
Oh, at least.
at least.
Yeah.
It is also now one of a kind. What used to be a very common site in a lot of libraries has been, I think we are the only library at this point that still has a existing PERC space that operates. It is a wonderful organization. They do great things. They have 8,000 items in their collection, toys, educational games, musical instruments, books, DVDs. It's a library within a library. And they have operated as a separate entity for a lot of years. Some of the challenges are...
Finance tab.
Sorry?
Finance tab.
Grants, they used to be financed through the school district many years ago. And then the school district changed their model, and so now it's through grants and volunteers.
Got it.
And that presents a challenge for them. That presents a challenge for us because to the regular resident, I don't think they distinguish the difference between their collection and ours.
Yeah.
They're staffed by volunteers, which means if they don't have volunteers, they just close down for the day. It's difficult for them. They have to run their own software to do checkout and circulation. They have to do their own cataloging. There's a lot of inefficiencies. And so we took the chance to meet with them back in December and say, collection access is really important to us. You have a wonderful collection, but we feel like we need y'all to be open more hours or to have some consistency. If we have all of these policies and y'all have slightly different policies and it confuses our residents, what can we do to work together? And from that meeting, which was a really it was a very positive, that was probably more negative sounding than it was. It was a great meeting, but just saying, hey, how do we make this work? And what we have started to explore is PERC as an organization giving their collection on loan to the Orem Public Library to add to our collection, to take out of the separate room that they sort of control downstairs in not the children's wing, and move it upstairs and assimilate it into our collection on the children's main floor, actually in the storytelling wing, so that these items are seen by families that are exploring the children's wing already. They'll be able to have more access to it. Their volunteers would transition from circulating and maintaining and cataloging to being on site during our story times to encourage interactive play and access to the items so that they can be checked out. And then we would work them into our catalog and into our collection maintenance cycle so that, again, to the resident, they would have no idea. We would catalog it in a way that we know if it's our piece of material or if it's theirs, but to a regular resident, they would have no idea. So the pros for us, we pick up access to 8,000 items, and we're able to no longer have a separate organization within our organization that has slightly different rules and different hours. The pros for them are their volunteers get to do what I would consider more fun work, and they don't have to have the expense of maintaining, and their collection, their mission is more fully achieved because we're giving them greater collection access. So both sides have tentatively agreed to this. We are working through, we just received our contract back from our legal department last week, and we'll present that to them probably within the week so that they can review it on their side and make sure that they're comfortable with it. And if they like it, then we would spend the next 6 months preparing the collection, transitioning it. I think we targeted Labor Day or maybe holiday rollout later this fall with those items. So there is a potential headline in here that says Orem Library kicks out PERC. And that's not at all what's happening. Both organizations' leaderships are very excited about the new partnership. We think it'll multiply both groups. It seems like a win-win. But I just wanted to make sure that y'all don't have any questions or concerns about that. We will allow them to stay in the space downstairs for a couple of years while we slowly work these stuff up. No one's getting evicted. We think this is a win-win. Any questions or concerns?
Their spot, 'cause I've never really even gone in there. It's just never think too when you have your kids and don't wanna drag them down into the movies.
And then have it maybe not be open. I think right now they're open about 20% of our operating hours, maybe 25%.
Yeah, that's a big, another thing too, it's always, we're closed, so.
It sounds like a win-win, it really does.
Yeah, I think so, and since their leadership is positive, I don't expect a distraction storyline. I think both sides will be happy. I just wanted y'all to be aware. We have also included $20,000 in sort of one-time funding this collection development year. If we need new bags, we have to buy new shelves. We wanted to have some money so that the transition goes smooth and they feel like we're featuring their items and not just chucking them on a shelf and saying, okay, see, it's here. So we're excited about that. That's all I have for that.
Okay, awesome, thank you. I guess we can move on to any other updates or anything else?
Do you wanna do the
Please.
my update? Okay. We thought we'd just give you a really quick update on how the display, kind of policy and the new displays are going, that we installed last April. These are the cultural heritage, interest and topics, Orem Connects, and then the Meet Your Librarian, Meet Your Neighbor displays. So just to kind of give you a sense of where we are with them. The cultural heritage display is the one in the north wing, near circulation. It has covered 48 topics so far in the weeks that we've had it running. And we stock it, each week kind of alternates, it depends on kind of what the topic is, whether we choose children's materials that week or whether we choose adult materials or teen materials or media materials. So just to give you a sense of how the topics are going, the most popular that have been stocked with children's materials have been Halloween, Thanksgiving, and surprising self-care. That one surprised me. But a lot of people like that one. The top 3 topics that are were stocked with adult materials or teen materials or media materials. Book Lovers Day. So we had that one on our list before. People love books about books. It's an interesting phenomenon. Earth Day, and then we had a tie between autism awareness and National Civility Month for our 3rd spot there. Interest in Topics, which is the display that's over in the south wing, on the kind of pyramid display, just inside the doors as you go through the south wing. We've had 24 topics covered there. The top 3 topics there are Pride Month, Library Lovers Month, so back to the books about books. And then we had a tie between Pioneer Heritage and Homelessness Awareness Month on that one as our most popular ones. The Orem Connects, those run for a longer period of time, about 6 weeks roughly. We've had 7 topics covered on that little display table inside our south wing doors. The most popular topics were Get Organized, which we highlighted in January with the start of the new year. Back to School, which we highlighted last fall, and then American Heritage, which was ran throughout last summer, were our top picks there. And then Meet Your Neighbor and Meet Your Librarian, we've been able to highlight 34 individuals on each of those. So 68 altogether, 34 from inside the library and 34 from our community, which has been super fun. All told, our checkouts from all of those displays, we've checked out just over 3,000 items from all those displays. So we feel like they're going really well.
They are going really well, and I checked out some books on homelessness, and I've never read them before, but they were right there.
Hey.
Well, yeah. So, it works.
And we present that because we have a plan for next year.
We will include in the follow-up email with the minutes, the link, so that you can see the schedule that we have built out for the coming year.
Okay.
We tried to pick new topics and some that we haven't highlighted before, so come back, check back in.
Again, adapting, some of the things that either didn't line up or we felt were redundant or kind of, we're putting the same books out for,
Or more than one.
because there's so much crossover in just things written about these subjects. And so kind of looking at that in ways to make it a little bit more fresh and interesting for the public.
How do you vote on the displays? I didn't know you could vote on them.
How do you vote?
Yeah,
On-
you said the ones that were most popular and you listed them and how.
Oh,
do
so
they vote?
that is just coming from
Checkout.
straight checkout numbers, so how many
Oh,
books
oh,
checked out for
checked
each
out.
one?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, do we have any other items we need to address on the agenda? All right, then I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
We are adjourned. Thanks, y'all. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
It's a fun time to be on the board if there's all these things happening. I mean, really.
I'll quote you on that when we're
Yeah.
stuck with construction and half the libraries are